Hi, HRN listeners. We're celebrating our 15th anniversary, and we have a really fun campaign and an ask for you. This 15th anniversary tour is aiming to bring you closer to unique food and music experiences in some of the most exciting cities in America. All the while, we're raising funds to support our work empowering the next generation of food systems storytellers through our fellowship programs. Here's how it works. Donate to HRN and be entered into a raffle in the city of your choice to win a dinner for two at a noteworthy restaurant and tickets for two to a concert at a prominent local venue. We have incredible partners in New York, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Nashville, Las Vegas, Charleston, Asheville, and Ardmore, Pennsylvania, who have donated a meal for two and two tickets to a concert of the winner's choice. And all donations help fund our fellowship programs, where we're helping to build essential workforce readiness skills and food system storytelling skills. Check out heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. That's heritageradionetwork.org/15. Thank you.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network. Since 2009, HRN podcasts have been exploring the wide world of food, beverage, and agriculture. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
This episode is brought to you by Roberta's, home of Heritage Radio Network for 10 years. Learn more about Roberta's at robertaspizza.com.
Welcome to Spill and Dish, a new podcast from the Specialty Food Association. Founded in 1952, SFA is the leading trade association and source of information about the $175 billion specialty food industry. We champion the food producers, retailers, and other buyers who make up the specialty food world. If you want to know more about membership, visit specialtyfood.com. In each episode, we want to share the stories behind the products made and sold by our members who are helping to shape the future of food. You can listen and discover the inspiration, recipe, craft, culture, ingredients, and production methods that help answer the question, what makes specialty food special? I'm today's host, George Hajjar, Associate Editor at SFA. We're excited to bring you today's episode and so happy to be working with Heritage Radio Network, a nonprofit podcast network covering the world of food, drink, and agriculture, and expanding the way eaters think about food. Today's guest is Pierre Thiam, chef, author, and co-founder of Yolélé, a specialty brand bringing Fonio to the world stage. Fonio is a quick-to-cook, nutrient-dense ancient grain typically eaten in West Africa. Yolélé's products range from Fonio as-is to Fonio chips and Fonio pilaf, and employ a wide variety of flavors in its product line. The company creates economic opportunities for smallholder farming communities and helps build resilience in the global food supply chain. Welcome. We're so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here too.
Perfect. So let's dive right into it. What made you interested in starting Yolélé?
Well, Yolélé came in an organic way to me, really. It started, you have how much time do you have? Because it can go all the way 3 decades when I first started working as a cook in New York, a young cook in New York City, and working in different restaurants and realizing that there was a lack of representation of the food of my origins, West African cuisine. This is really when I saw this opportunity and really began introducing this cuisine through family meals at the restaurant first, and then my old small catering business that turned into my very first restaurant back in early 2000 in Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy. And that at the time was quite pioneering. That restaurant became a destination. It was called Yolélé, like my CPG company today. And Yolélé became that place where Africans from the diaspora would meet, would bring friends, and foodies from the time too would come and have flavors that were quite different. That became also an opportunity to write my first cookbook. And that's when, as I'm writing the cookbook, I'm thinking about substitutions for recipes, for ingredients, really, because many of those ingredients were not accessible in the market. So you see where I'm going? This is where the idea of Yolélé came to be, how to bring ingredients that will make my readers be able to have the cuisine that I've experienced growing up in Senegal and cuisines of West Africa. And now this idea kind of solidified a little bit as I'm thinking about impact now. I'm thinking about giving back. Thinking about really how would these ingredients have an impact on the small farming communities that grow them if I manage to create a supply chain that comes from the small farming communities to the markets in the US. This should have an impact for those small communities. Those small families
Mm-hmm.
are among the poorest one in the world. They live
Mm-hmm.
in a Sahel region where it's dry and arid. So get now
Mm-hmm.
to how come these ingredients are not in the market, ingredients that are growing in an arid area, which is the
Mm-hmm.
south, where Senegal is located, south of the Sahara. So these
Mm-hmm.
ingredients are actually, when you think of it, they're important ingredients because they grow in an arid area. They grow in poor soil. And
Mm-hmm.
one of them became really important. It became our first ingredient platform. It's called Fonio.
Mm-hmm.
And why Fonio? Fonio is the oldest cultivated grain in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
It's a grain that grows in poor soil and
Mm-hmm.
that's drought resistant, require very little water. It's rain fed, so no irrigation, and it's quite nutritious. It's a nutrition powerhouse. So for these reasons, I thought fonio would be the perfect ones. Particularly as a chef, I realized the fact that fonio was very versatile. There were so many ways of preparing fonio that adapted to so many type of cuisines, different type of
Mm-hmm.
cuisines. So it was really the perfect grain, especially when
Mm-hmm.
you know that fonio cooks in 5 minutes. So that
Yeah.
there we go. So we just started this, and this is how this beautiful journey began.
That's a great story. Thank you so much for taking us on that journey. Can you speak a little bit about the decision to source the ingredients from the smallholder farmers rather than going to a larger producer? Yeah.
Well, it really is giving them back the credits.
Hmm.
I fell on Fonio as I was writing my cookbook and doing research on it, and I found myself in the southeast region of Senegal, an area
Hmm.
called Kedougou, very
Hmm.
remote. And in that area, fonio is king. That they
Hmm.
serve you fonio to greet you. That's the grain that they offer to show you how much their hospitality. That's really that grain that they showcase. But and I was fascinated by that. Just the fact that this such a delicate grain is only accessible in that area. Even in Dakar, you wouldn't find fonio, the city that where I grew up, you wouldn't find fonio. You had to really look for it, but it wasn't
Hmm.
readily available. And to me, this didn't make sense in a world where there are such a limited, our diet is so limited.
Hmm.
We have access to global diet. We only have access to four grains really, and there
Hmm.
are other grains that like fonio that are even so delicious and more nutritious that are not accessible. So it was to me one way to do it, but I wanted to make sure as I'm introducing it that the ultimate beneficiary are the ones who introduced me to it. They are the ones who are
Hmm.
growing it, the small farmers. It was very important to me, and as I'm thinking this venture, this business, I'm thinking that it has to be a business that's sustainable. And a
Yeah.
business that's sustainable when it comes to food system has to be a business takes that starts at the small farming level, at the community. The community is the deliverable. That's how I was thinking it. And if it's not approached this way, there's going to be a problem. And that problem is called monoculture, and that's really what was the thing we really needed to avoid. It
Hmm.
wasn't there for Fonio. Thank God this was done by small farmers, and it has to remain this way. It has to be a way that we support small farmers and we support all their approach to agriculture and the
Hmm.
rotation in particular. So support Fonio, that's the rain fed. After the rain season is done, there are other crops that are growing in that region, and we
Hmm.
can keep on supporting them so that the Fonio doesn't become the only cash crop. They can
Yeah.
really keep growing in an organic way, so to say.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, thank you. I see. Yeah, you touched upon monocultures and sort of food diversity, the idea of it in the brand. And I think that's a through line through a lot of the work that you do in food. And I remember I was I had participated in I had attended a talk that you were participating in from the Museum of Food and Drink, and you were talking about the fragility of the food system and using grains and using other sort of products like Fonio to create a more resilient food system. Can you talk a little bit about that? Can you talk about where you feel the problem lies and what people can do or what your business is doing to improve it?
Well, the problem lies in the fact that our food system is limiting our diet, and that
Yeah.
limitation is quite amazing, because
Hmm.
not only is limiting in terms of diversity, but it's also limiting because those products in general are coming from concentrated regions. And I'll
Hmm.
give one example: this war in Ukraine that everyone
Hmm.
knows now. This war in Ukraine is creating a problem in our food system with disruption because all the wheat, most of the wheat that's being grown in Ukraine is the one that Ukraine region, Ukraine and Russia, is
Yeah.
distributed around the world, and
Yeah.
particularly in Africa. So
Hmm.
Africa is like the really amazing situation of a continent that doesn't grow wheat, but that's been depending on wheat because of its colonial past. So wheat has been introduced into the continent, and now we have integrated it into our diet in such a way that we eat it every day. In Senegal, we eat baguette breads every day. We eat
Hmm.
when you go to Dakar because of the French colonial past. We have croissants and baguettes in every street corners of Dakar. You don't see any fonio products. You don't see any millet products. You don't see any sorghum products. Those are our crops. So we, not having developed those other crops that I call underutilized crops. Some people call them orphan crops, or lost crops. So those lost crops have to be integrated into our system, so that we can face challenges that are going to come, because the crises are going to come. If it's not a crisis like the Ukrainian one, there will be another crisis. It would be either a pandemic, or it could be just any like the disruptions that we are facing with the supply chain, the
Hmm.
logistics. All of those can be happening at any time in the future, and that will disrupt our food system. So the solution is to diversify it, diversify our supplies, diversify our products, the food that we are eating. The same way we diversify our portfolio when we invest in a stock market. That's the
Yeah.
same way we need to think about the food system. That's a no brainer when you think of it. And we find ourselves in a very delicate situation now because climate change, because of the population of the planet that's growing. I heard yesterday we turned to 8 billion
A
now,
billion.
and it's
Yeah.
going to be 10 soon. So
Hmm.
if we don't figure it out, and the solution is here with those underutilized crops, and that's what Yolélé, my company, has tackled in a way, by introducing underutilized crops and making it our approach was to make it uh, desirable, to create a demand. And to create the demand was to first create a brand, to brand
Yeah.
it in a way that it's going to be accessible, and tell the story on the supermarket. So we created the brand Yolele 5 years ago, my partner Phil Tevro and I, and today we are distributed across the US. It started with one product, just the Fonio. Today we have a Fonio pilafs that are all inspired by West African cuisine. So you see, if you look at this, it follows the trajectory from the beginning, where 30 years ago I noticed the lack of representation of our cuisine, and
Hmm.
so it evolves into today. Those pilafs are inspired by that cuisine. The ingredients are coming from that region, and now we even have fonio chips, which are like the snack category, which is another way to really reach the customers, and that was just by following the demand. We saw where the demand was going. We saw that there is a growing number of conscious consumers who are really looking to not only be part of the solution by integrating crops like fonio into their diet, and others who just appreciate Fonio for its taste, for its properties, for its nutrition. So there's so many different things that the consumers are gaining from it. But in a nutshell, there's a demand from the consumers for these products, and these products are out there, and they also need to have a market for them to be to survive. Otherwise, they disappear. So we're saving by diversity, by branding these products and creating a demand. And as the demand grow, we also keep working on the supply side to support the farmers, to expand our network of farmers. And even better now, we have found a place where we needed to even be part of the processing at
Hmm.
at the source. We have commissioned a mill to process fonio at a more efficient way so that we
Oh,
can.
wow.
Oh yes, that's where we
Yeah.
are today. Now we are on the verge of building the mill, and we
Yeah.
have. Yeah, it's quite a great place to be, and that's
Yeah.
to change the game for us.
Mhm. That sounds very exciting. And I think you touched upon a lot of different points about what goes into a brand and what you should be thinking about when beginning a brand, and also when um, trying to bring something that maybe requires a little bit more education, how you can meet the customers where they're at while also bringing diversity to the foods that they eat. Um, that brings me to the next question. I noticed that Yolélé has multiple missions that are very important and endemic to the brand itself. The sharing of West African food to the world stage, the improvement of the supply chain's resilience, providing revenue streams and agricultural demand to farms in Africa.
Mhm.
Do you feel that Yolele has run into difficulties managing these different aspects, or do you feel they work in harmony to achieve the same end?
Oh, difficulties are expected. I mean, they are part of it. We have run into difficulties all the time, but those difficulties, depending on how you see them or how you approach them, they can be really they're part of the journey,
Yeah.
and that's to me it's like a constant um, adjustment or conversation really with the market, with the consumers, and meet them, and as you meet them, you're making sure that you also stay true to your mission. And that's what we've been facing. We've been facing those challenges, and the way we have tackled them is most of the time through collaborations.
Hmm.
Yolele is a small company, with a big vision, with a big dream. We have a dream of really disrupting the food system in a way that integrates really what should be the way we think about food. Starting at the community level, starting at the farmers level, and making sure the food, at least the way is being done, is done by food people, farmers, and chefs, and the conscious consumers too. And like I was saying earlier, that about the community being the deliverable, thinking about the community, is the way you approach it. Is it good for the people? Is it good for the environment? Is it good for the consumers? And when you answer yes to those questions at every decision level that you're taking, you are really have a way to tackle the difficulties that you're facing. And those difficulties, again, they are part of it, and they can be uplifted with the collaboration that we're doing. When we didn't know how to take care of the logistics, for instance, how to
Hmm.
go from the small farmers level to like taking those fonio to the containers, to shipping it, to packaging it. That whole thing was not something that Phil and I could handle. We looked for a company to help us doing that, and that company is called Woodlands. They had that experience. They've been doing it they're based in Chicago, but they've been importing food products from 60 plus countries around the world. They had that system, and that's how we did it. We went to them and they helped us, and we collaborated, and now we have a supply chain. When we needed the branding, we went to Pentagram and we talked about our story, and that's how we figured out how to tell the story in the right packaging, and our whole brand came from that collaboration, and so on and so forth. And that's how that's how together with helps of allies we were able to face the challenges and the difficulties.
Yeah, the collaboration being an important part of the growth of the brand is a very important um, is a very important characteristic, and a lot of times brands maybe might be more hesitant to seeking help, where when seeking help may be the only solution.
Mhm.
Um, I want to talk for a moment about collaborations on the third party CPG side, like the collaboration that you did with Brooklyn Brewery on
Mhm.
a Fonio beer. How did that partnership come to be?
Well, it came to be from a friendship with Garrett Oliver, who's the
Hmm.
wonderful brewmaster at Brooklyn Brewery, who
Hmm.
he saw my TED talk on Fonio. I did a TED talk on Fonio some 5 years ago about this vision and how we thought this grain should be a world-class grain and how it would impact the small farmers community in the Sahel. And Garrett was very sensible to that. He connected with that message, and he, being a brewmaster, needing grains then to make his brews, his beer, he thought, hey, maybe we could make fonio beer, knowing that there's also a tradition of fonio beer and millet beer and grain beers in Africa. So that was
Hmm.
really that connection. And Garrett, he's African American, had this connection with his heritage, and this was one way for him to be part of the story. So he approached me, and we talked about it, and we really like connected on how this. We realized that this could be a wonderful collaboration, not only because his beer are world class beer. I mean, he knows his craft. So he
Hmm.
came up with this Fonio beer, the Yolélé Fonio beer, which is a white wheat, white beer, very delicious. I mean, everyone who had a chance to have it. So this collaboration came to be this way. That was Brooklyn Brewery and Whole Foods Market. Whole Foods Markets, who are also our first supporters. The first supermarket that we entered with our Fonio product was Whole Foods, one Whole Foods in Harlem, next to my Harlem restaurant, Teranga.
Hmm.
So that was the first step, and ever since, this collaboration kept growing from one supermarket to a couple to like nationwide distribution. And then Whole Food Markets was like, hey, yeah, we can do a beer, if you guys bring it up, we can collaborate on that, and that there we go. So
Hmm.
Fonio beer came up.
Yeah, that's so exciting. And do you feel like there's more partnerships like these on the end product side on the horizon?
Oh yes, I mean more talks are on the happening right now with the Fonio beer because it was such a success. So we are planning on continuing this collaboration even more. We are talking for a distribution of Fonio beer in Europe with a couple of breweries as well at the moment, which I'll keep confidential, but. It's some serious talks that's happening this way, and that's just one example. We strongly believe in collaborations. We strongly believe that if you want to really succeed in this mission of disrupting the food system and bringing a solution, it has to be done with collaboration. It has to be done with collaboration, especially with other people who have who can really take your impact at a scale your impact at a much higher level. So we are looking forward to this kind of collaboration, especially now that the mill is being set up with the mill products. It's going to be opening up to like even bigger opportunities.
Yeah, that's so exciting. One more question that I want to ask you. Is there anything that you want people to know about Yolele that they may not know already? Besides the mill seems a new and an interesting development, but other things
Oh
that are in
yeah,
the works? Hmm.
yeah. The mill is definitely the big news, but I like to correct that people oftentimes connect Yolele with a Fonio company, but we are not a Fonio company. Fonio is our first ingredient. It's our Trojan horse. It was our way for us to start the brand, but we are a brand, an African food brand, and we intend to, as we grow, keep introducing other African products, underutilized one preferably,
Yeah.
ingredients, crops that will have that are environmentally friendly, that are also climate friendly, that are nutritious, obviously delicious, because we are a food company. It's about food and flavors. And so we're going to introduce other products. We have other products that are being grown in rotation with Fonio, for instance. Those are ones we want to introduce. We have products that are part of like the tradition of the culinary tradition of Africa, that we also want to introduce, like dawa dawa, which is a wonderful fermented locust bean that we already have in our Fonio pilafs and our chips, but we want to have it as a product of its own. And as a matter of fact, we are about to launch our Yolélé spice blends. Actually, it's a matter of days. So we have spice blends, all inspired by West African culinary tradition. So you will see that also coming up in the market very soon. So we're not just a Fonio company. That Fonio was very important. It's our first ingredient platform.
Oh, perfect. Do you want to share any information on how people might be able to find your spice mixes and where they can contact you?
Yes, our spice mixes can be found on our website. We have an e-commerce platform, yolele.com. So
Hmm.
that's the one. Obviously, the usual suspects you will find it as well. Amazon, Fresh
Hmm.
Direct. As we grow, we're gonna keep growing with the distribution as well, and on the
Hmm.
retail as well. You will find it on retail. But yolele.com will give you all that information.
All right, perfect. We're almost out of time, but before you go, we'd like you to participate in our final segment, Take Five. 5 questions for our guest. First, let's pause for a break.
This episode is brought to you by Roberta's, home of Heritage Radio Network for 10 years. Roberta's was founded in Bushwick in 2008 and has become one of the most iconic restaurants in the country. HRN made its home inside of Roberta's in 2009, and together they have become part of the DIY fabric of the neighborhood. Roberta's, the pizza restaurant, is open for lunch and dinner 7 days a week and serves much more than just the famous wood-fired pizzas. Their team dreams up new salads, pastas, and sandwiches on the regular. Roberta's Tiki Bar is alive and well in the back garden, serving up frozen drinks in the summer and hot toddies in the winter. Stop by the bakery and takeout spot next door for fresh breads, sticky buns, and pizzas to go. But Roberta's also extends beyond Bushwick, with multiple locations in New York City and now in Los Angeles. You can also find their frozen pies in grocery stores around the country. The spirit of Roberta's, like Heritage Radio Network, is everywhere. Here's to many more years of pizza-powered radio. Learn more about Roberta's at robertaspizza.com.
Okay, here are your 5 questions for our final segment, Take Five. 1. What is your favorite thing about the specialty food industry?
My favorite thing about the specialty food industry is the industry.
Hmm.
And sorry, silly question, silly answer it may seem, but I'm really fascinated by how this industry, the opportunities that it offers,
Hmm.
the size of it, and how there is so much that can be done to really have this industry be part of the solution when it comes to the challenges that we are facing. I'm taking climate change, because food is the big culprit. So sometimes, though, the industry, we have allowed ourselves to be hijacked, and by shareholders whose oftentimes the interest is not aligned with the interest of the planet. Uh, so that's is it my favorite thing? I'm not sure if I answered the question right. I guess I'm not a rapid fire answerer. So
No problem. So, what is one thing that the Specialty Food Association has made easier for you as a specialty food business owner?
offered me networking opportunities. That the association has done that. The association has been a great platform for that, through either its events, and
Hmm.
through many ways. I mean, I've been grateful to have been, uh, what's the word would that be? And and that could be a general thing, but I feel like I particularly benefited from that from that platform, from the platform for the specialty food, and because maybe the fact that we are a niche, we are coming up with these answers. It could be that because our products are amazing. Hopefully that. But that's been really the network that the industry has been offering to us. That platform and that networking has been priceless.
Mm-hmm. And if you weren't running a business, what would you be doing?
If I weren't running business, I would be cooking for my loved ones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's one piece of advice you'd give a new food business?
A new food business, I would think, should be a one that is really mindful, conscious food business, I should call it, mindful of its impact, mindful of its vision. And also, I would advise them to dream big.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how do you define specialty food?
Specialty food is food that is, I would say, that belongs to a community, and that is, I mean, obviously can be scaled up to reach other communities. It starts at the community level, and that's really the beauty of food. It transcends the borders. It takes the food outside of the community to connect with others, and that connection is really unique to food. And that's what specialty food is, because when you bring that to other communities, the other communities see what's special in it, and embrace you, and that's a way for them to really have a better, more empathy about other cultures. So that's how I feel about specialty.
Yeah. It's a beautiful way to think about food as a instigator of community across cultures, across the world. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So a big thanks to Pierre Thiam for joining us today. And you can find out more about this show at specialtyfood.com and heritageradionetwork.org. And remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Come back often to get to know the people who are shaping the future of food. Special thanks to Heritage Radio Network, the world's pioneer food radio station. This is Spill and Dish, a Specialty Food Association podcast.
Spill and Dish is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.
Hey there, I'm Lee Ullman here with some big news from the National Young Farmers Coalition. We're partnering with Heritage Radio Network on a special season of The Farm Report. It's all about what's happening with the Farm Bill and how it impacts farmers and eaters.
I am growing diversified vegetables on land that's been in our family for 150 years.
And so with the pandemic, gentrification, property values going up, we had to sell the land and we lost it.
Join us as we uncover the untold stories behind this massive piece of legislation that shapes how we grow our food, what we eat, and so much more.
The problems we have had, those are things that come from earlier Farm Bill and USDA policy, right? Like Earl Butts, get big or get out.
You know, it's my responsibility to know not only what I'm eating, but then like how that all came to be. And realize like, wow, like this piece of legislation, all this money, like it's technically something that I support as a taxpayer.
While Congress debates the next Farm Bill, this is not just an invitation to listen. It's a call to action. Be part of the conversation. Subscribe to the Farm Report on Heritage Radio Network, wherever you listen to podcasts.